Hey everybody, it's Bludgeon coming to you once again from my trailer in the woods with part 2 of our emergency conspiracy coverage. Gen Con is wrapping up and more details have come out about conspiracy, and I'm here to bring you everything that I know. Here's what I've got for you right now. We've got the rules, the full rules for the raid mechanic. We know what those black agent boxes do. They're called ongoing agent box effects. Maybe bring it back into the branding department. We've got one more leader, Hayt, to talk about, and we've got the back of the box. We also know what Stoneburners are. All that coming up right now. Let's start with the rules for raids. We got this little mini rule book, and I want to say a big thank you to Zabryakov for providing these pictures direct from Gen Con. Really appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Raid. How does it work? So there are two types of raid tokens. There's two stacks. There's an orange stack and a blue stack. The blue stack, I think, is like higher value stuff. What does it mean? Everyone's going to start with their own raid board. So that little like weird like half octagon thing, everyone's going to have their own one of those, and that's going to track the raids that you complete. How do you complete a raid? Let's talk about it. Conspiracy brings a new way to spend swords during your reveal turns. When we looked at Skytail earlier, we saw he had this weird effect where you could spend swords to do something. Raid is another way to do that. So this is a big theme of conspiracy, it turns out. Each player has their own raid board with 5 empty spaces to place raid tokens they collect. You may only complete 5 raids. Once the 5 spaces on your board are full, you can't complete any more raids. There's 2 different types. During your reveal turn, spend the number of swords required to complete a raid. So there's like a sword cost on the top, and there's a reward in the middle. So when you reveal, first of all, this is going to be your revealed swords only, not your combat strength. So you could have like 6 troops in the conflict. You've got 12 strength. You can't spend that combat strength. It has to be actually swords you get on your reveal turn somehow. So for example, revealing daggers suddenly might become more interesting. So reveal turn, spend the number of swords required to complete a raid, collect the reward shown, then place the token on the leftmost empty space of your raid board. Whenever you complete a raid, a new one of the same type becomes available. So you flip over the next one, or maybe it's just already revealed. Turn a raid token face up from the corresponding stack in the bank. If you run out of either type of token, take all of that type that were previously discarded by a Stoneburner. See next page. Shuffle them and replenish the stack. If there are no extra ones, then the stack is just empty. Most spaces on your raid board are marked with a penalty or a bonus. So on the board, there are these little like things already on there. These are penalties or bonuses. Here's how they work. So raid penalty, lose 1 influence with a faction of your choice. If you have no influence with any faction, you don't suffer a penalty. Okay, so that's going to open up some like ideal strategies where you're going to want to complete a raid if you can before you gain any faction influence. You know, maybe doable, maybe not. But that means that these rewards are going to come with a cost here. So it's not as simple as, let me just get some free water or some free troops. You might have to lose an influence to do it. Yeah, so the first one is blank. So the first raid actually doesn't cost you anything. So that means it's going to be pretty hard to, waste one of your penalties, because the first raid you get actually doesn't have a penalty. The second one gives you the penalty. The third one gives you a bonus. The fourth one gives you a penalty. The fifth one gives you a bonus. Okay, so how do the bonuses work? Raid bonus, reactivate a raid you previously completed. Take its reward again, then flip it face down. You can never reactivate the same raid more than once. So that's pretty interesting. So that's going to really reward you if you're able to get like a powerful one. I guess it's the blue stack that's the more powerful stack. If you're able to get one of those early enough, you can then repeat it by completing maybe a cheaper raid later. You get to kind of double up on it. You're not going to need the swords again. That's interesting. Okay, then there's like an example of how it works. I don't think we need to do that. There's at the bottom here. Let's look at that one. This raid token offers 2 different rewards. I saw this one in the display case earlier, and I thought it was a fold space on one side and a contract on the other, and that's indeed what it is, which means if you're playing this with Original Imperium, then that raid is going to provide you with a fold space. If you're playing with Uprising, then it's going to provide you with a contract. So I definitely appreciate that. I appreciate the effort made to include as much as possible for both expansions. And we're going to see a little bit later that I think they've made an extra effort with Conspiracy compared to Bloodlines to make as much of it as possible compatible with Original Imperium as well as Uprising. Maybe everything. We'll see. I'm really curious to find out. Okay, So that's the raid mechanic. I mean, that's super interesting. The idea of spending swords as a resource, kind of like persuasion, to get something else is interesting. We'll talk more about it at the end. Let's just keep on rolling. Okay, next thing we want to talk about is those black agent boxes. We saw that on the weird new Spice Must Flow that was in the display case, where it says you may acquire victory point based Spice Must Flows. You're like, what the hell is this? Do you have to like have this first and then you've got to like leave it out? Is it a conspiracy card? Like, how exactly does that work? Do you just get a Spice Must Flow when you play it? Okay, here's how that stuff works. And we'll talk more about that special Spice Must Flow also. Ongoing agent box effects. I really think they need a better name for this. Some new cards have an agent box containing an ongoing effect on a special background. This effect remains active as long as the card remains in front of you. In other words, as long as it's in play. Generally, this will be until the end of your reveal turn when you clean up the cards in front of you and put them in your discard pile. So this is cool. It's going to do something. So for example, that Spice Must Flow, if you play it, then that means that round, when you go to reveal, that's still going to be active from when you played it earlier as an agent. That'll allow you to buy the real Spice Must Flow at that point. Okay. Now there's an example here. There's a card that like, it's way too small for me to see exactly what it is. It's Guild Negotiator. It costs 5. I think it gives you a guild bump when you buy it. It has Spice Trade Agent Access, and it has one of these black agent boxes. And let's read the example text, and that'll kind of, we'll be able to infer what it actually does. So Camilla plays Guild Negotiator to send her first agent to Haga Basin. The ongoing effect of Guild Negotiator is active as soon as the card is played. She has 3 influence at the space in Guild, so the board space of Haga Basin is reduced from 1 water to 0 water. Later in the round, Camilla sends an agent to Hayliner, paying 1 less spice than the board spice cost board space cost because Guild Negotiator is still active. This is pretty interesting. So from this, we can infer that this card, if you have 3 guild influence, it's going to reduce the cost of spaces. You can kind of see there's a spice, a water, and a Solari. It's going to reduce the cost of visiting spaces by either a water or a spice or a Solari. What's crazy here is that this is activated as soon as you play the card, which means it's reducing the cost of Haga Basin to 0 water. You can go there even if you don't have any water. That's kind of counterintuitive to the way things usually work in Dune, right? Usually it's like you've got to pay that cost kind of before you look at anything that the card does other than the agent icon. But this is different. You play the card, it activates instantly, and that can actually reduce the cost and let you go to there for free. You could go to like Spice Refinery, for example, I'm assuming, and get your 4 Solari even if you have no spice. So that's an example. And there are more cards with these black boxes. We'll see on the back of the box when we look at that, we'll see some more that have it. We can't really read them. But I think this is a really cool idea. It's a new design idea. Like they're coming up with new stuff that seems pretty interesting to me. I'll be really curious to see what other effects there may be along those lines, but they need a better name for it for sure. Oh yeah, and that special Spice Must Flow, we actually got a clearer shot of it where on the top left corner, you can see a special icon on there, which I think means overthrow mode. So that special Spice Must Flow is going to be a part of overthrow mode. Do you have to buy that one first for everyone, or is it maybe just the Emperor that has to? Who knows? But are there going to be other special cards for overthrow mode? Wait and see. Okay, there's an explanation of graft. We don't need to go through that. It's the same as it's always been. Now let's get to Stoneburners. Stoneburner. So everyone gets a Stoneburner token. This was my guess as to what this was, and I'm really sad to be right. Once per game, you may spend your Stoneburner during your turn, returning it to the game box, for one or both of these effects. Remove all cards from the Imperium row, then deal a new Imperium row from the top of the Imperium deck. It's Atomics. It's the new Atomics. It's what I was afraid of. Look, you may love Atomics and you may be excited about this. Great. I'm happy for you. I personally hate Atomics. I won't go into my huge rant about it. If you've watched my streams or my videos, then you've heard it before. Basically, just to give you a short answer on this, I really don't like the way it messes up the race for a big expensive card. One of my favorite things in Dune is when like Kwisatz Haderach shows up, or Steersman shows up, or Overthrow shows up. And there's this really cool drama as to who is going to get it. Like someone will get that card. And what are you willing to do to make sure it's you and not someone else? It may affect your leader pick. It may affect which board spaces you go to. You may decide to prioritize getting water and going to research station instead of saving your water for worms. You may choose, like all of that stuff I find really fascinating. And Atomics just like basically ruins it. Anyway, that's my short answer on Atomics. We could go on. Stoneburner is the new Atomics, but it also has this other choice. You can use it to discard the 2 available face-up raid tokens, then reveal 1 new one from each stack. Set aside the tokens you removed. You maybe will need them again if you need to reshuffle the stack. You can do these effects in either order. So the nuke or the raid nuke, you can do one of them. You can do both of them. You can do it in whichever order you like, and you can do one of them, see what happens, and then decide whether you want to do the other one. I mean, I like that flexibility. I am not happy to see this mechanic back in the game at all. This is actually a big bummer for me. Okay. So that's everything from the rules. We talked about raids. We talked about Stoneburners. We talked about ongoing agent box effects. All right. Let's talk about the new leader, Hayt. Now, some people are going to say, Bludgeon, it's not Hayt, it's Hayt. And it's not Skytail, it's Skitale. And it's not Alia, it's Alia. I don't care. I'm going to read these words the way I read them when I read the books 30 years ago. There's no pronunciation guide in the books. I don't care what Frank Herbert said in his mind. I don't care what the movies say. I don't care what you say. I'm happy for everyone to say it however they like. I'm going to say it my way. If it bothers you, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Okay, let's take a look at Hayt. Okay, this guy may be the coolest leader that we've seen so far. 3 complexity, okay? Let's start on the left-hand side, remembering the past. I love the thematic tie-ins here. When you reach 2 Emperor influence, draw a card. When you reach 2 Freeman influence, draw a card. A couple of comments on this. 1, Emperor in Conspiracy basically represents House Atreides, okay? And reach, when you reach, the way that what that means is when you go up to 2 influence. So when you go from 0 to 2 or 1 to 2, whenever you go up and hit 2 influence or go past it, that's when it triggers. And so technically you could get this more than once in a game. Like let's say you get up to 2 Emperor influence, you draw your card, you have a captured Mentat, you go back down. Whenever you reach it again, you get to draw your card again. So there's like some possible shenanigans here, but at a minimum, potentially 2 card draws through the game, combine it with a spy. Could be important for hitting a Spice Must Flow or buying a big card. It's cool, thematically cool as well. All right, the next ability, Mentat. Whenever you reveal your signet ring, get a Solari. I just like that a lot. I like the idea that your signet ring is useful either way, whether you play it or not. There's usually pressure to play your signet ring, and sometimes it's a bit awkward to do it. So I like that you're going to have the option to not play it and get a Solari instead. Okay, let's look at what it does if you play it. Oh my God, this excites me. This is so cool. Gola. As you play this signet ring, you may copy the agent box of a card in the Imperium row that costs 2 or less, or pay 2 Solari to copy the agent box of a card in the Imperium row that costs 5 or less. This is so fun to me. This is like built-in usurp on a signet ring. Not exactly the same. I know it doesn't copy the agent icons. Okay, it doesn't trash the card either. The card's going to stay there. But I just love stuff like this. I think it's very, very fun. I think that it's going to create like variety in the game. It's going to create cool moments. So let's think a little bit about just some of the effects you might get out here. So cards that cost 2 or less in Uprising might give you a spice. Notice this is Imperium row. You can't use this on Prepare the Way to draw a card. If you have Bene Gesserit influence, that's not going to work. What else is there? There's like, there's cards that place a spy on like certain factions. There's trash, right? There's cool stuff. There's cards that generate troops. So I just love the flexibility. Now, it may be that there's nothing worth copying, in which case, you just reveal it, get a Solari. And then what about cards that cost 5 or less? There are some pretty cool effects in there. I'm not going to go through them all, but like the possibilities are huge. And again, this guy could be played in original Imperium as well. So, you could use this and copy Thufir Hawat, or I guess you could copy a power play if you wanted to. You'd trash your ring in that case, but it could be cool. you could copy Tleilaxu Master's agent box. So if you happen to have the research for it, which you probably don't. Anyway, I just think this is super fun. Really love this leader. And this is the one I think I'm the most excited about the 4 revealed so far from Gen Con. And that's all we're going to see for a while. 4 leaders were available. We've now seen them. Okay, let's take a look at the back of the conspiracy box and see what we can see here. All right, let me read it for you. The reign of Paul Muad'Dib Atreides has ushered war across the Imperium. How can one oppose an emperor who can see the future? Now, after years of bloodshed, powerful enemies plot his downfall and have somehow found a way to shroud their complex plans. Paul faces his greatest challenge, the unknown. Wield political and military might in this expansion for both Dune Imperium and Uprising. Harness conspiracy cards with potent benefits that can last throughout the game. Conduct raids on planets throughout the Imperium. Bend your strategy to the changing demands of Imperial edicts. That's the first we've heard of that. What is that? Try the new Overthrow mode, where one player becomes the Emperor and stands alone against 2 or 3 united opponents. Plot your own conspiracy. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, and what can we see here? First of all, Imperial edicts. What is it? What is it? So we can see the raid board. We can see some raid tokens. We can see some of these conspiracy cards. I'm assuming these are like the yellow border, and then there's one with the blue border. That's interesting. The yellow ones have that triangle thing on the left. The blue one has a spice. We don't know how these are acquired or how that works. These were not used in Gen Con, so nobody knows how that works yet. That isn't, in on the playtesting. On the left side, we can see some conspiracy tokens, the triangle things, and it's interesting because there's like resources on them. I see one with a spice. There's one with 2 persuasion. There's one with the waters, one with the swords. There's one with another triangle. So who knows exactly how those work? We can see some new cards here in the bottom. We can't see everything. There's a Bene Gesserit spy with 4 different faction cards. If you have another Bene Gesserit card in play, something. Okay, who knows? Combined forces, which is like I know that one costs 1. It has graft. It has signet ring icons. Gives you a troop. Pretty nice. Alia's Fane. It's Alia's Fane. And discard a card to draw maybe 2 cards. Reveals for conspiracy tokens, I guess. Anyway, we can also see there's a new leader there. Yet another Paul Atreides. This one makes me want to throw up, to be honest. It looks like Timothée Chalamet, like posing for like Teen Vogue or something. I don't know. I don't like this at all. I don't like seeing any of the actors in my Dune. Anyway, the whole tangent. I don't like it, but let's take a look at them. Up at the top corner, you can see it says 1 player versus 2 player. And so I think this leader is only going to be for the overthrow mode. So when you're playing as Emperor Paul Atreides against the conspirators, this is who you're going to be. And there's one side for if you're playing against 2 people, and I'm assuming you flip it over and it's a little bit different if you're playing against 3 people. Look at the signet ring, Emerald Throne. Get a spy. Okay, that's very good. Or pay 8 Solari to get a victory point and trash your signet ring. Okay. And then there's this leader that we can't see anything. We see an image. We don't see a name. We don't see a complexity. We don't see the signet ring box. So I'm guessing this might be Edric, who is a guild navigator involved in the conspiracy. The previous navigator, Steersman Urkun. It's not Urkun, it's Irkun. He also doesn't have a signet ring, but he had a different box there replacing that slot, I think. So who knows what this guy's deal is. I'm guessing the whole left side is like all text. Okay, let's look at the contents of the game. 146 cards. Like, I think that's more cards than come in Uprising itself. So that's going to be like Imperium cards. It's going to be conspiracy cards. I don't know what other kind of cards might be there, but that's a lot of cards. Very cool. 7 leaders. Okay. Pretty good. Bloodlines, I think, came with 9. So, all right, 7. And one of them is Paul, Overthrow Paul. So 6 leaders you can play normally. I'd like another couple. I've been spoiled so far by the plethora of leaders we've gotten, but all right, we're going to get 6. Same amount as in Rise of Ix. Certainly a hell of a lot better than came in Immortality, which was 0. So we're doing well here. 26 raid tokens, 6 raid boards, 6 Stoneburners, 6 Imperial Keep tokens. What the hell is that? I'm guessing those are those little colored circles below, since we haven't heard about that, but I don't know. Victory point goal token. What is that? Maybe something to do with overthrow mode? Alia and Sand Torpedo tokens. What? Sand Torpedo tokens? Where are those? I don't see anything that looks like a sand torpedo on the box. The Alia token, I guess, is just for when you trigger her ring, turning everything into Bene Gesserit. Then you probably just put that on your leader mat to remember that you did it. 7 spy tokens and Swordmaster overlay. Okay, so I think, and this is a couple of commenters have mentioned this idea, is that those little pill-shaped tokens with a spy on top and an agent icon below are probably there to allow you to use spy mechanics in original Dune Imperium. So this is one of the problems with Bloodlines is, yeah, it's an expansion for either Imperium or Uprising, but about a third of the expansion was unusable with original Imperium because it was related to spies or contracts or worms. Now, anything with contracts is still not going to be usable, but we saw that one thing that was related to contracts had a fold space or contract. Are we going to see more stuff like that? I don't know. But I think what's going to happen is if you're playing this, or maybe even Bloodlines now, with original Imperium, when you gain a spy, you'll take one of those spy tokens and then use that to infiltrate on one of those spaces. So it may not work exactly the same way, right? Because, for example, if you take a city spy token, like it's not specific to Arakeen or to Carthag or to Research Station. Presumably it can be just used on any of the cities. So it may work a little differently, but I'm curious to see how that works. And it's a great idea to try their best to make everything compatible as much as they can. Whether or not I want spies in original Imperium is another question. I feel like I don't, but I like that I have the option. Swordmaster overlay, I'm just going to guess that this is something, if you want to make the Imperium Swordmaster the same as the Uprising one, where it's 8 for the first person, 6 for the rest, maybe you can do it. Do I want to do that? No, I don't really. I like it the way it is, but options are good if that's indeed what it is. Okay, so that's everything from the back of the box here. I'm super pumped about this. Let's talk just a little bit about some of these things. So raid, the idea you're spending swords for resources, for troops, for water, for spice, for victory, not victory. I'm sure you can't get a victory point that way. Conspiracy tokens, whatever. That is really interesting because all of a sudden cards that reveal for swords are going to be a lot more valuable. Typically speaking, persuasion has always been more valuable than swords on a 1-for-1 basis. And swords are good. They help you win conflicts, but if you're not involved in a conflict, they don't even do anything. Now, you could spend swords, even if you're not in the conflict, to raid. I'm pretty sure you can do that. Very interesting. So it's going to be cool to see how the valuations of things change. Are people going to stop trashing their daggers automatically? It's very possible. Suddenly, like a Sardaukar infantry becomes like maybe really good. That Victory Plaza card that was shown suddenly looks a lot more interesting. And it also gets even better if you've completed raids. It turns into a permanent fold space with a Freeman tag. So that's very, very cool. All of a sudden, Count Sinoche, Gorlu Sinoche, his little reveal of add 1 sword, that suddenly becomes way more interesting than it seemed at first, because it's going to help you complete raids. Now, the guy himself still seems pretty boring, lame, like just the character has no personality, but the mechanics all of a sudden are getting more interesting. Let's talk a little bit more about those raid penalties. Losing 1 influence with a faction of your choice is not a good thing, but some leaders can actually take advantage of that. Leaders like Margot Fenring, Irulan, or Hayt, who get a bonus when they reach a certain number of faction influence. Steersman Yurkun as well. Because you could gain your influence there and then lose it from a raid penalty, and then gain it again and get your bonus one more time. Our buddy, Count Sinoche, once again is becoming more interesting because of this raid mechanic. He gains an influence with his ring on a faction where he has 0 influence. Well, what if you gained an influence? That's okay. I'll just lose it to a raid. I'll get it back with my ring later. So the implications here are pretty interesting for just like leader strategies and balance. It also creates a really interesting decision for you on your reveal turn. Do I want to spend my strength to try to win the conflict or fight for 2nd or 3rd place? Or do I just give up on it and spend them on raids? Or, maybe I'm just not confident, or maybe I'm so confident that I'm going to get what I want, I can still spend swords on raids. So that's going to be interesting. And it's also going to make turn order a pretty big deal, right? Because if you're last to reveal, then that means you get to see if everyone else is spending their swords on raids before you have to decide. So it's going to increase the value of Imperial privilege, I think, as well, or Mentat if you're playing in the original game. I'm really excited about that whole new space that opens up about spending swords to do stuff. What else can we talk about here? I mean, Hayt seems like a great leader. I think the ongoing agent box effect thing is really interesting. I'm psyched. I'm psyched about conspiracy. I'm psyched about all of this new stuff, minus Stoneburner tokens. I'm going to puke. I'm going to have nightmares about that tonight. But if you're excited about it, I'm happy for you. So thank you for watching the video. Please let me know what you think of all of this stuff, and I can't wait to find out about the conspiracy cards. We still don't know anything about that or these Imperial edicts. So there's mysteries left to ponder about and to hope every day. Please, do we get news today? Who knows when we're going to get news? So conspiracy should be releasing around December, I guess. Dune Part 3 releases in December, and I believe they hinted they don't want to spoil the movie by revealing the whole expansion now, so presumably that means the expansion will release after the movie. So we're looking at, I think, late December or maybe January. We'll potentially start seeing previews and a pre-order a little bit before that. Can't wait. Cannot wait. Thank you for watching. Make sure you are subscribed here on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/bludgeon. Get into the Discord for all the latest news and conversation about all of this stuff. And I'll see you next time, whenever that may be. Probably not for my trailer in the woods, but you never know. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye.